Hello there. This is a quick disclaimer. This episode specifically is going to be... Hello there. This is a disclaimer that episode 3 is going to be cut into 2 parts. This theatrical cut would just be the new theory that was presented by one of our guests. It's around the same length as the other episodes, hence why we cut it down, or at least just excluded this part. However, the full discussion, introductions into that, about the theories that we were presenting, is also going to be posted as episode 3, but an extended cut. That one is 2 hours long. That I'll try to put in timestamps and chapters so you can kind of move around and figure out which theory you want to hear. And then episode 4 is going to be where we rank it. Thankfully, all that's going to be posted today so that we can kind of hop around and decide where you want to start and how you want to ingest the material. So, thanks so much for the support. We deeply apologize for the delay and for how late it is or whatever, but we are happy to present this to you. So, thank you for watching, and see you later.
I do.
Leviathan theory.
I am so excited. Okay, so I've been building this. So I will say, I don't think I'm the first person to think of this. There is 2 halves to this theory. There is the literal physical evidence for my theory, and then there is the theological evidence for my theory, which is what convinced me at the end of the day. It was last night. Gabe and I had been hanging out forever. He left, and I was like, I feel like I could look into this just a little bit more. So I went ahead and looked into the theological side and went, I actually believe this. Oh, this is actually, I can back this up. This is crazy. Mm-hmm. And I've been researching this for like a long time, guys. And I've been just compiling my evidence, putting this together. But again, I actually looked up at the end of it, the 1-sentence version of my theory. And I am not the first person to think of it. If you look it up, it just says, yes, this is correct. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. I mean, it's AI overview, so it's like pulling from things. But it was crazy. Anyways, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to like spoon feed you this theory. Okay? I'm going to give you pieces. The first part of it is that, I'm so excited. Under the ocean floor is the Leviathan, but it's not that it's under the ocean floor. It's kind of that it is the ocean floor, which I'll explain. I'm going to show you. The Leviathan has 7 heads. There is not evidence for this within the Bible itself. You can look at Revelation. There's a 7-headed beast that comes out of the ocean. That is not the Leviathan. Let me be very clear. Some people believe that is. They are incorrect. I don't think so. That is it. That is the beast. That is a whole separate issue. Okay. The Leviathan, though, I do believe is a 7-headed creature, which we will get into the symbolism behind that. There's a lot of symbolism in this. Mm-hmm. But I think it is a 7-headed beast. So I have provided pictures for us so that we get to see what I'm talking about, because I do believe you can see the 7 heads in the ocean. So I found them. I searched for, I kid you not, hours on Google Maps
to find that.
to find these. Some of them are really obvious. Some of them are not so obvious. Okay, so here's the first guy, which, by the way, this all started because I saw a TikTok video of a guy that was like, there's dragons under the ocean. And I was like, haha, wouldn't it be funny if that was real? And then it was real, and I was like, oh my gosh. Okay, so here's the first guy. Now this one is like the most obvious, which, by the way, Gabe the other day mentioned sandwiches, and I was like, that relates to my theory. Yeah, because this is the South Sandwich.
Of course. She'll do that. She'll be like, oh, guess what? This random topic that relates to my theory.
Oh, Dairy Queen.
It's the South Sandwich Islands.
Yeah.
Anyways, this is very obviously like a serpent head.
Yeah.
And I will note, and we need to keep this in the back of our minds, that is the top of the serpent head. That's important. You need to remember that is the top of the head. Okay, yep. So that's 1. There's 7, guys. Here's 2. This is around like Puerto Rico area. Up here, by the way, is the Bermuda Triangle. So that's
right off there. Yeah.
Yep. But here you see this one. Mm-hmm. Right here, that's a serpent head. So these are like the obvious ones. We are going to get into some that even I go, I don't know about that. Which is this one. So this right here is Iceland. Yeah, so this right here is Iceland, and I see this head right here. Now this one, if somebody goes, no. Yeah, so if somebody was like, yeah, this isn't actually a serpent head, I could believe you. I searched for a really long time and couldn't find anything else. So this one, I'm okay with being like, no. Okay, and then we get into this one. This is another one that I go, I'm okay. Like, maybe not. This is the Arabian Sea, and it is right in here. Is this head right here?
I see. Yeah.
All of these so far, again, let's note, that is the top of the head.
Yep.
That's important. Okay. This one is not the top of the head. Also important. This is the Philippine Sea. This one actually kind of goes this way on the map. And it is right here. There's a big serpent head. This one is probably my favorite. It has the most to it, the most information to this one. This right here, I think, is a tail.
Oh, okay.
Or a jaw. It is either a tail or a jaw. And I would like to note that in here is the Mariana Trench. Yeah, I cannot connect that yet. I do not yet know. Maybe we could figure that out today. But I do not yet know how to connect that to this right here. But this is definitely one of those serpent heads. I mean, it's so clear. That was my favorite. It has a lot to it. Okay, then we have this one here, which is just south of that. And it's right here. You could theoretically say maybe that's the neck. I think it goes up this way. So there's this head right here, and then it comes up that way. Okay, next one. This is Indonesia. These are all super close together. It's right here.
Yep.
Big ol' head. Okay. Now, I zoomed out for us so we could kind of just get a better picture. There's that one. Here's that one. Here's this one right here on the map. Okay? Now, let me ask you this. What do you think all of these have in common?
They all belong to the same creature.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
I would say yes. They are all the same, like heads of the same creature, yes. Methane gas.
Okay.
All of these places in the ocean have significant amounts of methane gas under the surface. Do you know what that comes from?
Dead bodies.
Yes. But specifically, really ancient, old, decaying bodies under the ocean, because they were trying to attribute it to like old dead krill. And I was like, I actually don't think so. I don't think so. I think that this is a dead Leviathan that is providing all of this really old methane gas. Yeah. That was one of those where I went, I was goofing around at this point, and I was like, that's actually kind of an odd coincidence that all of these areas have methane gas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then we get into some more. Oh, yeah. Okay. So this guy right here, again, this is Iceland. Here's my slight. I changed this later on, okay, but like if we're on the journey of me researching this, this guy right here, that one that I was like, I don't know, actually can connect to here. And what is here, you may ask? What is that? Oh, the Ring of Fire. Oh, the Ring of Fire. They all connect to the Ring of Fire. So you have this guy down here. All of this, by the way, all these dots on here, seismic activity, volcanoes. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So you have this guy down here. It comes up through here. Up in there is the Puerto Rico one. And then you come up. There's that guy up here that would connect into this. And it comes up. And then you have all of these over here that all connect. The only one that I would say, maybe not, would be the Arabian Sea. Okay? That one in the Arabian Sea, not, I can't say that really connects
to
a
the
whole
rest
lot.
of them. Yeah.
Yeah, in the same way. But I will actually get into that in a little bit.
Okay.
We will. I do have an explanation for that one. Anyways, so the Bible describes the Leviathan as a fire-breathing serpent. Fire-breathing. Lots. I have the scriptures here. I will get into them a little bit later. And so, I don't know. It's a little, let's just note that coincidence that fire-breathing serpent is really connected to the Ring of Fire.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's keep going. Here's my other kind of like more detailed evidence. So this, I'm going to read a little bit of this right here. This is totally a screenshot from a random article that I don't have a reference for, so sorry. Hashtag plagiarism. We started the new week on Monday, 29th of April, with a long dive to sample smoking chimneys and vent animals in the known hydrothermal field of the segment E2 South. Now, what is E2 South? Also, by the way, that looks like a tooth. That looks like a tooth.
Kind of, yeah.
Straight up, that looks like a tooth. Okay? And this is supposed to be the vent that they're exploring, which would be volcanic. Yeah, what is the E2? Yeah, what is that? Okay, let me show you. Yeah, so on the Scotia plate, they have these little things right here labeled. So E2 South is this little thing right here, south, which is a tooth. Now, that seems a little bit inward, I would say, right? Yeah, so the Bible describes the Leviathan as having, like, rows, like circles of teeth. So it would make sense that there would be a tooth here.
Oh, yeah, because these first ones would be the first teeth, and then that would be the second, like, circle.
Well, actually, I don't think these are teeth.
Okay,
I think that's just the tip of his nose.
Okay, fair enough.
Which I do have pictures of. Hey, look at this. I went deep onto this one. The other ones don't have as much like this. Okay. But look, that would be the nose sticking out. That's an active volcano in these South Sandwich Islands. And that could look like a nose sticking, like part of a nose sticking out of the ocean. Same with this. Same with that. Mm-hmm. There's more. There's a lot of South Sandwich Islands. You come up here. Again, that could totally be fossilized dragon nose sticking out of the ocean, especially with the volcanoes.
Yep.
Right? Also, these are... I'll get that later. These are two separate volcanoes, by the way, that look really similar, which if it's the same being, of course. Don't read that yet. Good. It's important. Okay, so now we get into this image down here. So that, of course, is this guy up here that we've just been exploring this entire time.
Yep.
So, do you see this line right here?
Yes.
That is a fault line. So then we get into some more of my theory here. The Bible describes the belly of the Leviathan as being sharp as glass, and every single translation of Scripture describes it as plowing the ground that it crawls on. I think that the Leviathan formed our tectonic plates.
Oh, through like digging
by
through.
slithering around, by digging
okay.
into the ground in the world. Because look, that looks like a path. He was headed here.
Yeah.
He's been here before. Yeah. Okay. Now I just have an extra map just in case. Okay. Now I'm going to get into my theological half of this.
Okay.
Which is here's the theological bit. The Leviathan in the Bible represents bad chaos. Every time we see well, not every time. There's an exception that I did not look into, and maybe we can figure that out. It's odd. But the Leviathan in the Bible represents bad chaos. Bad chaos also represents Satan, okay? But I do think that the Leviathan actually existed, which per my theory, and that God fought the Leviathan and destroyed it before we get to Genesis 1.
Okay.
And then used the Leviathan body as the basis of the world and the core of the earth, which is like a hot core of the earth, is actually the core of the Leviathan.
Yeah, because especially if it's a fire-breathing serpent, that would track.
And it would also be really on brand for God to use what is meant for evil, which would be this Leviathan, for good, to create life. And then, catch me on this, not only is it using something that was bad, it's meant to create life, it is using something that was representing bad chaos to create life. Now, who represents good chaos and can create life? Women. Which is it's just an interesting, there's this parallel here. Also, it is, and some people follow this theory, and I don't believe them, that there was actually two Leviathans. God killed the female one so that it could no longer reproduce, which I don't think holds water. I don't think that there's two Leviathans, but the fact that we decided that he killed the female one, because you could also kill the male one, and also we couldn't create life, also kind of tells me that this is the representation of chaos. Okay, so, yeah. Now let me get into my evidence here, which is a lot. Okay, so the most evidence we have, the most description we have of the Leviathan is from God himself, by the way. People do not really describe the Leviathan, probably because they've never seen it. Okay, but they know it's there. And that is in Job 41. The entire chapter is a glaze of the Leviathan. It's just this big, mighty being. I'm not going to read all of Job 41 to you. That's too much. I'm not explaining all of that. But I do have some highlights for you from Job 41.
Alrighty.
Job 41, 18 through 21. Its snorting throws out flashes of light. Its eyes are like rays of dawn. Flames stream from its mouth. Sparks of fire shoot out. Smoke pours from its nostrils as from a boiling pot over burning reeds.
A
volcano.
Yeah, that's what I was going to, yeah.
That's a volcano. So then I have this connected here to the ring of fire. But then you go, but what about the Arctic dragon? And what about the Arabian Sea dragon that aren't connected, really, to the ring of fire? Job 26:12. By his power, he churned up the sea. By his wisdom, he cut Rahab to pieces. Rahab is another name for the Leviathan. Cut Rahab to pieces. Now, is the whole Leviathan cut to pieces? No. I think that we get little pieces of this throughout the Bible of God, of the story of God fighting the Leviathan. I think this is part of the story. I think God cut off 2 heads of the Leviathan, the one that's in the Arctic Ocean and the one that's in the Arabian Sea.
Which would be why they don't connect directly.
Which is why they don't directly connect.
The crazy thing with that too, I'll have to look into this. But I want to say I've heard other mythological stories that kind of sound like that.
We're getting there. We're getting there. Boy. I have that. I have them compiled right here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. So then this, which is actually the next point, we get into Job 41:30 that says, its belly covered with scales as sharp as glass. It plows up the ground as it drags through the mud. Which is what I said before. I think it carved the tectonic plates. I think it was here when the world was just water. Okay. Now, I have this connected tectonic plates. Now we're going to go into, okay, what do other people say about this? Here's the mythology. You ready? Oh, this is so good. This is one of those I was like, the next point after this one, by the way, so I'm going to go through the mythology. The next one after this is the one that convinced me. So Mesopotamia, you have Marduk and Tiamat, which Marduk slays a dragon. I would like to point this out, goddess, and then uses the body of the dragon goddess to create the world.
No.
Do you know what he does with this body to create the world? Splits it in half, bottom, like earth and sky. Which, what did God do in Genesis?
He separated the land from this. Yeah.
Yeah.
He separated the land from sky.
Yeah.
Yes. Isn't that a crazy coincidence?
That. Yeah.
Especially when a lot of other Mesopotamia stories align with Christian theology.
Yes, they do.
Old Christian stories.
Okay. You have the Greeks. Zeus defeated a multi-headed chaos monster with lightning. Now, I bring us back to the Philippine Sea. I also have, what does that say? In Job 26:13, it says, by his breath the skies became fair. His hand pierced the gliding serpent. Now, piercing the gliding serpent could also be killing it with a lightning rod.
Okay.
Now I go to the Philippine Sea.
Pierce things.
This is why this is my favorite one. Does that not look like lightning to you?
I can see.
Oh.
It kind of goes through the tip of the nose here.
Yeah.
I think it was pierced. I don't know if it was necessarily actually lightning. I don't know how you could fossilize lightning, okay?
Well,
but
you can. If
you
it's,
can?
Yeah, if you have sand, when lightning hits sand, it perfectly creates the lightning shape in...
I forget what the material is called, but yeah, like you can
it's
make
called a fulcrum.
lightning out of sand.
Yeah.
Fulcrum, yeah.
I think that is the piercing of the serpent.
The serpent with the... Yeah.
And I'm going to keep the Philippine Sea open because it's going to be relevant again with the mythology.
Okay.
Which, by the way, the Greeks nowhere near the Philippine Sea.
Yeah, so why would they... Yeah.
And they can't get high enough to see this. How would they know? Okay. Here's another really interesting one that I go, is the Canaanite tale, which is, if you don't know, the Canaanites worship Baal. Baal battles and defeats Lotan, which is the Leviathan, a 7-headed serpent, representing defeat of chaos, and that secures Baal's control of the cosmos. Now, who would want to imitate God and take God's place?
Satan.
Yeah, Baal.
Which, yeah.
Isn't that insane?
And it's the exact same story. Yeah.
It's the exact same story. Yeah. Okay. Hindu. We have Indra versus Vritra, which I do think I'm saying that wrong, so I apologize. But Indra defeats a giant serpent that is actually blocking the waters to the world.
Yeah.
So when they defeat the serpent, the waters can then come to the world, so the world can then function. Which, again, so similar to God defeating the Leviathan. And then we get into Norse mythology, which is the Midgard serpent, which I think sounds like you know about, but is a snake so massive its body coils around the entire earth and residing in the ocean, and it's biting its own tail. What does that look like this serpent is doing?
Biting its tail.
Biting its tail. Which, again, this is Norse. We're in the Philippines.
I have no reason to...
Did you see that? You can't get high enough in Norse mythology to see that. How did you get that? How did you perfectly describe in multiple mythologies this serpent head right here. And again, that's why I'm like, this one's like sideways. Like, why would this one specifically? And because it all relates to this.
Well, what's interesting is in Norse mythology, just to add to your theory even more, what that is, the person who strikes down Jormungandr at the end of the day is Thor, which is again lightning.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So then in Isaiah 27:1, I'm going to skip some of it. We will get to all of it later. It says, Leviathan, the twisting serpent. He will slay the monster that is in the sea. The twisting serpent. You mean the serpent that's wrapped around the entire world?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so that's it for the mythology side, which is crazy.
Yes.
The whole thing is, I was like cooking last night as I'm looking through all this. Now here is the one that I went, oh yeah, no, this is just true. Job 41:34. Of all the creatures, it is the proudest. It is the king of beasts. Now, I want to also start our attention to Satan for a second. Do you know what Satan was in heaven? A seraphim.
Yeah.
I thought he was an archangel.
Seraphim.
Yeah, archangel is a class. It's like a president human.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the seraphim, the root of seraphim is snake. But seraphim together actually means burning one.
Ooh.
Fire-breathing dragon is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't think that Satan is the Leviathan. I think the Leviathan is a creature that represented Satan, that God defeated. I also have here Revelation 12:3, which describes a red dragon that wipes out a third or a fourth, or whatever it is, of the stars in heaven, which is Satan. And so I'm like, a red dragon, a burning dragon. Yeah, okay, I see it. This is Satan. And I think that it is this creature that God defeated as a foretelling of the gospel, of a foretelling of his defeat of Satan, which my evidence for this also being so, I pulled this Luke 3:21-22, which is random. We're in Luke. We've been in the Old Testament this entire time. But this is Jesus' baptism. You're like, how does this relate? In Jesus' baptism, he goes down into the water, he's defeated, he dies, he comes, he rises again, and then what happens after he rises again? He receives the Holy Spirit in the form of a dove, which tells me that it is not foreign to God to have a literal physical symbol, a physical action that he does that represents something that is going to happen. So that means that genuinely, I think the Lord fought the Leviathan
as a precursor to,
Yes, because it also says in the Bible that this was the plan the entire time, right? So he did know. He defeated the Leviathan, used it to create the core of the earth. And here's the other thing. I think that this one I am willing to be corrected on. Okay, honestly, most of it I'm willing to be corrected on, but I do think that I think I'm cooking here. So the fire, I think, represents bad chaos. I think that is what is representing bad chaos, not the water, because then he permanently puts the fire under the water. As like I've subdued you, I've won. You get stuck under the water, you die. What did Jesus do in his baptism? He goes under the water.
That's true, yeah.
And he gets to rise again. And so I think the water represents good chaos, whereas the fire is bad chaos and it is now trapped under the earth. And then I have Job 41:31 quoted here, which I don't remember why that's here, so we're going to find this one out together. Oh, yes. He makes the depths seethe like a cauldron. He makes the sea like an ointment jar. Which I don't know what the heck is up with an ointment jar, but he makes the depths seethe like a cauldron. That's describing the Leviathan.
Yeah, which would totally be an underwater volcano.
Yeah, or even the depths of the earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is my Leviathan theory. That I hope that was worth the wait,
yes,
guys.
that
actually was incredible.
Very much worth the wait. That is. Yeah, I was also going to say that would, especially with the whole, the creatures being the representations of it, it would be interesting because the form that Satan chose to take is a snake. Still.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that he was a snake already. I do think that the seraphim literally look like snakes.
Okay.
I think that it's a possibility. I mean, I'm sure they could change form. I don't know. They're spiritual beings, okay?
Yeah.
But I do think that the seraphim, because when, I believe it was Ezekiel? One of those two actually saw the seraphim and described them as snake-like.
Typical things, they are portrayed with having 3 wings, or like 3 sets of wings, and like I think 3 eyes, 3 hands, 3 feet, things of that.
Yeah.
Kind of going off of the rule of 3, which would be interesting if you have a satanic or evil version of that then gains an additional one for one thing or another. Like maybe the 6 wings could be representative of something.
Yeah.
In terms of like 6, whatever, right? And then the 7th would be a representation of chaos, possibly.
Yeah, well, and then I'm like, I wonder if that one head has everything to it. It's biting the tail. It has the lightning. I'm like, I wonder if that was like the big bad. That was like
the head.
The head of the, which is weird because the other one, the first one I showed you guys down by, that's like by Antarctica. That's like between South America and Antarctica. Yeah, I think that's right. That one's huge. This is the one that everyone's pointing to going, there's dragons under the ocean. That one's massive. So you would think that's the head, but it's not, because the other one has all of the other symbolism with it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's an, oh, and here's the other thing. There's 2 scriptures that do not align, and that is in the Psalms.
Okay.
I do not remember one of them. I meant to write them down before I came here, and I forgot. But one of them is like, you made the ocean so the Leviathan could frolic in the ocean. That one, I'm like, yeah, you're describing a whole different being, because the Leviathan represents evil in every other place in the Bible. So why in the Psalms is the Leviathan not really evil?
The Leviathan is symbolic of Satan. It could even be the idea of like, that is kind of the purpose of things you create for, but they rebel against you. It could be like, in the context of the Psalm, it might be more so about that, because a lot of Psalms are like, oh God, you are so good, but everyone hates you.
Well,
like
yeah,
like
especially with the going off of your idea of the Leviathan creates the tectonic plates, then potentially before Satan's rebellion, the Leviathan existed, and that's what its purpose was, to roll around and frolic in the ocean to create the tectonic plates. But then after Satan fell, it became a symbol, and then God had to kill it.
Yeah, well, because it also describes in Revelation that red fiery dragon being thrown to the earth, which would also make sense to me. I think that in some places too, like there was just a huge impact, because if you notice, the actual like noses of these serpents are actually part of the tectonic plates. And I'm like, no, I think you hit the ground. I think God slammed you down so hard that you morphed into it. I think that they became part of the tectonic plates at that point. So,
which especially with the one head, obviously there's the secondary head that he cut off, but with the one head with the lightning and it's biting its own tail, the description of it's the son of Eve will crush one head is what, or like
that's true,
but it would say crush the head of. And so I was like, I wonder then if, like you said, there was one in big important head and that one got pierced with the lightning bolt. It's the one that's talked about as like the Jesus is going to crush it when he returns, that sort of thing. And it's the one head that's for some reason important.
Because then you do have that dragon revelation. Then we talked about with the 7 heads with the one wounded one. That, I know you mentioned that that's not that.
I don't think it's a Leviathan. I think that if this Leviathan ever woke up, which by the way I do think it's decaying. Remember the methane gas?
Yes,
it's dead.
No, yeah.
But should this Leviathan ever actually wake up? No, the entire world's destroyed. God used it for the foundations of the world.
Yeah.
There's no way.
But plus, especially in Revelation, like we were talking about this last night, I think the 7-headed dragon is much more indicative of a not a physical concept, because the beast is also like in line with the Whore of Babylon, which would be really weird because she can kind of like talk to / control it, kind of. And if it's a woman controlling political leaders, that makes a lot more sense than a woman controlling a giant creature that's, but it would make a lot more sense rather than it being an actual giant dragon.
Well, and even just to go back to like the fighting thing in Job 41, where God's describing all that, you know what the point is? Do you know why did he even describe the Leviathan? Is because he was going, yeah, Job, you're small. I defeated this thing. And so God is bragging about his war victory. And I'm going, yeah, God's not gonna, I don't know, why would you describe something so in detail and then it's not real?
That could even be interesting because kind of like what I mentioned with the seraphim, like the 6 wings potentially like representing something. So that's when you have like when it's something demonic, like the Leviathan, like the beast. The 7 tends to be a common representation in that. Like it's just one of those things I think goes to show that there's just so much more about the world as it is, and even just about the spiritual world that we just will never know.
Well,
at least until after we die.
Think about this. The reason 7 is important is because the 7 days of creation, right? So God creates everything, and then he on the seventh day he rested, right? So I'm like, I wonder then if we track it, the sixth day would have been when it's generally believed that's the day he created mankind, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder if it's then the head he cut off being the sixth head, right, is the ties to mankind. Like that sort of like you don't get to control them. You might like that sort of thing. And then the seventh one, the resting one, if you destroy that one, well, then the other five go. Because if they can't rest, eventually they'll just die out because they can't sustain themselves. Whereas, again, God put in nature that 7 on the seventh, you rest.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's why that one head is so important. You kill that one, the resting one, the one that's supposed to restore like balance, the whole thing goes out of whack and it just dies.
Potentially. Yeah.
I mean, he cut the one off, right?
Yeah.
But then he also still struck the head of the other one.
Mm-hmm.
But also, how did they know all this? Have you thought about that one yet? How did they know? They weren't there. They have never in their lives seen a Leviathan.
Leviathan, yeah.
How?
If Job takes place before the flood, I can imagine that story gets around.
That's fair.
Like, that's just something that Job is like, hey, like he goes back to his friends like,
well,
like this thing.
Not even that, but I'm pretty sure God speaks to Job while his friends are there at some points. At one point, they're trying to like tempt him away, and God speaks to Job, and his friends are like present and can hear God as well. So there's very possibility that like his friends just heard it too. Like
that's true. I guess I was kind of under the impression that that like it was intentionally left out of the Genesis story.
Yeah.
Like they knew that had happened, and then just left it out of the Genesis story. Because think about, how did the Norse people find this? How did this get everywhere else?
Well, there's a Lucifer's fall is not in Genesis either. Mm-hmm. So I wonder then if it's Abraham in covenant with God, because I think there's even a point when like an angels show up to Abraham like directly, and they're just chilling and talking with him. I wonder if it's over time